We have spoken a lot about Syria on this very show and on the bulletins on Wion. Unfortunately, we have spoken about a very, very tough war that has taken place in the West Asian country, one of the countries who was the most developed and the richest in West Asia. And unfortunately, once again, we are talking about war because the war is not over in Syria. There is the last rebel-held bastion in the northwestern part of the country, and currently the Syrian and the Russian forces are targeting the rebels staying there. But not only them, there are civilians dying and also hospitals are being targeted. Well, what is the international community doing about it, if at all the international community intends to do anything about it?
Fighting goes on in Syria's last anti-Assad rebel-held bastion of Idlib. The brutal military campaign the Syrian and Russian forces are conducting seems to follow the same script as other previous battles in Syria. Idlib has been encircled and isolated from the rest of the country, and a blame game has started. Anti-Assad armed groups accuse the Syrian government of burning crops and making agricultural fields inaccessible to farmers.
It is unfortunate to see the escalation in violence in the northwest reaching such dramatic levels. Not only are people displaced, lives lost, but farmland, vital for the food security of the region, crops such as barley, wheat and vegetables have been destroyed.
The Syrian government rejects such allegations, blaming the militias in control of Idlib. The UN says strikes have killed at least 150 civilians so far. Damascus denies responsibility and says they are fighting terrorists holed up there and accuses them of using civilians as human shields, preventing them from leaving the area despite the danger. Idlib is home to a diversified array of rebels, but the most structured group is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, an ultra-conservative brigade with ties to Al-Qaeda. Hospitals and medical facilities too have been hit hard, despite doctors sharing their coordinates with the United Nations. Some hospitals in Idlib have been relocated underground to avoid airstrikes. Dozens of internationally renowned doctors have signed a petition requesting belligerents to stop hitting hospitals. In the letter, signatories lamented, and I quote, "Rather than being a place of healing and refuge, hospitals are now some of the most dangerous places for civilians to be." President Bashar al-Assad says such attacks are necessary because rebels use hospitals as military bases and weapons warehouses, an accusation which resounded throughout the Syrian war but failed to be supported by hard evidence. New doctors in Idlib said they will not share the coordinates of medical facilities with the United Nations anymore. They are afraid this information is being wrongfully used against them. Tens of hospitals and clinics are shutting down. Idlib is home to almost 3 million civilians who are now bracing for the worst. Many of them have reached the Turkish border in the hope of crossing it to find safety in the neighboring country. And amid this acknowledged humanitarian crisis, the United Nations Security Council, as it has mostly been the case during the Syrian war, did not even agree on a statement condemning the violence against civilians in Idlib. Moscow exercised its veto power to block it. The UNSC is bitterly divided on every issue pertaining to Syria, with its permanent members using their veto powers to freeze any possible action or statement they disagree with. Moscow is fighting alongside the Syrian government, and it will never allow any UNSC resolution against Russia's allies, generating an impasse which has made the international body ineffective, depriving it of the mandate of guaranteeing more global security.